Welcome back to See the Wood Turn. We're really starting to get ramped up here, so I'm going to start a new video series, and it's going to be called From Log to Bowl. So today we're just going to talk about our inventory and the logs themselves and what we have to choose from right here at the moment. And that's always changing, but let's go take a look, see what we have. All right, so what we have here is actually my firewood pile. But as I go through it and cut up a firewood, if I find pieces that are unique, whatever, or large, then I will take and set those aside, and we can turn those into bowls and other items. Some of the small stuff we can use for other things as well, especially if it's maple or something. But I have a lot of oak in here. I'll show you on the other side here, we have a couple big ones. So you can see these ones here are quite a bit bigger than some of the other ones that you saw on the other side. So these will actually be pulled aside and turned into bowls. I could probably get maybe 6 out of that and maybe 4 more out of this here. So when I get down to these, I'll get these out of here and we'll turn those into bowls. So this is one choice for some inventory that we have here on property. Now these ones here were actually cut right here on my property, so that's where we source these ones, but that's not where we get all the wood. Now this particular pile is a seasoned pile, and it has a mix of wood in here. There's some walnut, probably some maple, and maybe some cherry, and of course some oak. But you can see some of this stuff has been around a while. This is a pile that my friend, who also turns bowls, had been collecting over the years, knowing that in his retirement he was going to be doing bowl turning. So that's what this pile is, something that he's kind of collected over the years, and we're both slowly working through it. It's not our preferred pile because some of it's kind of been left a little bit too long, but we still can get some stuff out of this. But one thing about letting wood turn or sit for a while, then you start to get some other really neat designs in it called spalting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Now in this particular area here we have burls, and burls are growth that happens on a tree for a few different reasons. I don't really know the scientific nature behind it, but it is a growth that happens on a tree. You can see here we have a branch, and then we have this massive growth that went around it. These here are, when they are turned, they are very expensive pieces because obviously you don't get this all the time. But we got several of these burls in here. These were made into something, you know, real special, and will certainly garner a much higher price tag just because they are so unique. Whoa! A little bit of a blooper there, but anyway, that's the burl section. We have a few more of them over here too. I can show you. All these are burls. So yeah, these will be really quite unique pieces when they're turned. So that's another thing we can choose from out in the inventory here. Now this particular pile here is honey locust, and you can see we got a variety of sizes, so there'll be different things we'll turn this stuff into. Maybe some small little weed pots or something like that. And then of course we have some pretty good sized stuff here. We don't get a lot of this around here, so this is kind of a unique item, but it will really turn into some really beautiful stuff. It's got a more of a yellow look to it. I think that's why obviously it's called a honey locust, but you can see it's got a really big bark. But this is another option when we're turning, we can come out and choose from to you know, produce bowls. How we get some of this stuff, because that's part of this video as well, is several different ways. The pile out front I told you was sourced right here on the property. The older pile, that the non-burr pile, was just something my friend had collected over the past several years. Now the burls were purchased. Now this particular pile was a good friend of my buddy's that also works with me here at the shop, and they had a tree that had to be taken down by the town, and they offered us all the wood as long as we were willing to come get it. So we did. So we have this option here as well, and this is honey locust. Back here we have another large selection of some pretty good sized oak here. This particular pile and some maple, we'll talk about that maple here in just a second, that was also sourced right here on my property as well. And you know, sometimes these things are pretty big, so we got to use a PV, which, you know, a lot of people don't even know what those are, just to roll these things around so you can cut them off and get them ready to be put on the lathe. Now for this piece right here, you heard me talk a little bit earlier about spalting. Well, that's what you see right there. Basically what it is some mold spores and stuff, or a different type of fungi that get into the wood, and it creates this beautiful pattern. And if you've been watching the channel, I think I've shown a few finished bowls with that pattern. So in order for that to happen though, it takes a while. So that log right there has been down and cut for 2 or 3 years now. So there's a long process to prep some of these as well. You don't get spalting right away. It's got to be down and on the ground for it to start to have that look to it, but it's an incredible piece when it's turned. And of course, the bigger they are, the better, obviously. But that piece has been moved around a little bit on the yard here, because if you move it, then it picks up different spores and you get different type of coloring in the wood. So that will eventually all be turned down to small, relatively small bowls, because you can see it's not a very big piece. Basically, my hand spans the whole thing, but you can get some big ones. But that's maple, and it's called spalted maple. And we'll show more of that in the future, some finished product. Okay, that leads us to this last and final pile right here. And this is a load of wood that I purchased. And what it is, it's from a firewood company that process firewood. And what happens is they can only, their processing equipment is designed for, you know, a certain size of wood. And if it's too small, it doesn't work well in their processor, or if it's too big, it doesn't. So they're happy just to sell it to us. They make a little bit of money on it, and we can turn around and use this for bowls. And they don't have to, you know, chop it down the size to make it work for firewood. It's just too big. And I can show you some up close. You probably can tell how big this is. If I put my arm down across, it's probably almost 2 feet across here. So this is some big stuff, and I'll show you up close a little bit more. So another way we get to wood is actually outright just purchasing large logs like this that we can then go and turn into bowls and other items. Now, of course, everybody knows what a birch tree looks like. This is a white paper birch right here. However, you don't get too many that are this big. See, I put my arm down here. Again, that's probably almost 2 feet across right there. So that's a big birch right there. So we've turned a few of those into bowls already. And then we have this monster over here, which at its biggest point is about 3 feet across. And you might have seen a short on the video on the channel of me turning a piece of this, and it was actually the other half of that over there, and I'll show you in just a second. But this is a massive piece of maple, and here's the other half of that maple log I just showed you, and it's the other half of the half that I already turned. So this one would get turned into a large bowl as well. Something like this is not a big seller, because this is a very, very expensive bowl when you make it that size, just because of the labor involved in turning it. But they're beautiful, and they're certainly like a calling card. People see them, and they're definitely, it makes them look, and then they can check out the stuff that's much more affordable. But there are, you know, some people would be interested in something big like that. But again, this is, you know, this is a pretty big log. You can see me sitting on it here. Hopefully that kind of shows you the size. All right, well, hope you enjoyed that little field trip out to the supply area, which is kind of spread all over the place out here. But you can see we get the wood from several different places. I saw some of it right here on the property. Some of it we've collected for years. Some of it we've purchased even just from one person if they have like a burl or something. Others we get for free if we're willing to go get it, which is fantastic. And of course, some of it we purchase from firewood companies that just don't want to process that massive log size. They don't really have a great use for it, but it's a great product for us to then take down to size and turn it into a bowl. So I hope you liked the video. Also, if you're interested, check out the website. It's also seethewoodturn.com, and you can see some of the finished product. And if you're interested, you can check those out as well. Next week, we'll talk about how we prep one of those pieces of log to get it to the point where we can actually put it on the lathe. So come back next week, and we'll talk about that. Thanks for swinging by See the Wood Turn, and we'll see you next week.